This episode of the Fire Alarm Insider is proudly brought to you by Secured Securities, your trusted partner in fire alarm and security solutions, protecting lives and businesses one system at a time. All right, so if you're an entry-level technician, or if you're new to the fire alarm field, or if you've been in the field a couple years and you still feel like you constantly behind, you constantly rushing, and you constantly feel like you're trying to prove something, then this episode is for you. Today, I'm going to talk about the field mistakes I've made early in my career that cost me years, not days, not even months. And I'm not talking about the small technical errors. I'm talking about the mindset mistakes, decision-making mistakes, my ego mistakes. That kind don't always get caught right away, but they quietly follow you. It slows your growth, it damages your trust, and it shapes your reputation before you can even realize it. So let me keep it a stack, because not everybody kept it real with me. And if you can save yourself 5 years from making these uncomfortable mistakes, just give me a few minutes. I believe that's a fair trade. So I'm explaining to you the pressures of moving too fast. When I was new, I rushed everything, every call, every panel, every troubleshooting call that I had went on, and every install. I thought speed meant competence. I thought moving fast meant I was sharp. I thought finishing early was me winning. What I didn't understand was that speed without understanding was just chaos in disguise. I remember when I was working at Sonatrol as a technician doing security systems, and I remember the field tech, Greg. I remember him clearly telling me to this day, "Hey, Anthony, why are you always rushing? You have 8 hours to do your job. You get about 2 or 3 service calls. You don't have to rush. Why are you always rushing?" And once I heard that, I just knew that I was doing something wrong in my life, because I really was rushing for the fact of trying to get off work and just so I could head back to the block just to do the things that I've been normally doing, the real nothing things. But in my mind, I felt that I had to hurry up, finish what I was doing just so I could get back and just chill on the block. I still had that same old mindset. This episode of the Fire Alarm Insider is sponsored by the Fire Alarm Business Blueprint. If you're a seasoned technician looking to start your own fire alarm business, we have a 9-step course for you to take you from starting your business to getting your fire alarm license, marketing, and also getting money into your business. If this sounds like you, the link is in the show notes. And let's get back to the program. So another mistake I made was putting end-of-line resistors at the end of the panel. So I couldn't figure out how to troubleshoot the fire alarm system in my earlier days. In the earlier days, it was a lot more zone systems rather than it was addressable systems. So a lot of the System 3s, the Pyrotronics, the Edwards 5800 panels, it was a lot of old fire alarm equipment that I was dealing with. So a lot of times, especially in my early days, a lot of times I couldn't fix a open circuit on a NAC. I couldn't fix a open on a zone. So what I would do was just put an end-of-line resistor, spend some time on the fire alarm panel, whatever system I was working on. Shit, it could even be burglar alarm system too. If I couldn't fix it or didn't know the steps, how to troubleshoot, I used to always put the end-of-line resistor and say that I had fixed it. So I was a terrible technician in the beginning of my days. So I had to come to the realization that even in my career, where do I want to define myself? Where do I want to go? Because every shortcut that I was taking was actually developing these type of habits within my brain. And I didn't want that to be acceptable. And I didn't want that to even stack up. So I didn't want that to be me. So what I had to do was I had to really start focusing, taking the manuals home, buying equipment, taking it home just so I could practice a little bit more so I could be better when I get out into the field. So one of the most important lessons I had to learn was just because it worked doesn't mean that it was right. A fire alarm system is not just about being good enough. It's about being cleared. It's all about life safety. It's about predictability. And it's also about knowing, not even guessing. So when I was rushing, I didn't really understand the system or understand what I was doing with the system. So I had to slow down because I knew that rushing, I was never going to learn the system and everything was going to be silenced through troubled lights. So I didn't want to do none of that stuff. And it was very different skill sets that I knew I had to learn. So the second mistake I made was wiring batteries wrong. I'm not sure how many people actually went through this, putting red to black and then black to red, or even jumping it out with the series trying to get 24 volts from the two 12-volt batteries. You know, my problem with me was a was being colorblind. Not to say that I can't see the shade color of red, but that also goes in the mindset of rushing. Instead of me paying attention or having just a little bit attention to detail, I'm miswiring batteries, blowing out the terminals for the batteries or even the panel itself. And now we got to call the company and say, hey, we need a whole new entire panel because, I blew it out by just doing the worst mistake ever, and that's wiring the batteries wrong. So that's the reason why I feel that after 10 years, the light bulb actually went off in my brain. And I was like, okay, I get it. I understand it now. Because within the first 10 years of me being a technician, as a fire alarm technician, rather, I was not learning. I guess it either was the companies I was working for, my work ethic, or a combination of both, or the environment of me always trying to head back to the block just to do nothing. So whatever it was at that particular time, it was costing me an entire decade to actually learn and understand this business. So a lot of the companies I worked for, especially in the first 10 years of my business, weren't companies that was actually able or capable of sending me to training. Not until I got with Simplex Grinnell in 2008, that is when I was able to start understanding how the bigger companies work and how they operate and how they actually train technicians to get them up to speed. So when I started to understand that is when I started to change my whole mindset about the fire alarm industry. And at that point, I just had to be the best tech. So that's why these mistakes cost me so many years. It didn't cost me, getting fired and nothing blew up in me. I didn't do anything super crazy to where it was detrimental to where I had to get fired. But what it did do is slow down my development because I didn't absorb what the consistent pattern were when it came to actually troubleshooting. Certain things is actually repeatable. And once you see the actual trouble, it's just easier to fix it. So those delays definitely stunted my growth than any mistake could have ever had at that particular time. So the real cost of rushing cost me almost my reputation, trust between other technicians, managers, and also the owners of the company, confidence within myself, and the confidence in people with me, sending me, to the wolves, as they call it, or by myself on service calls, any growth opportunities, and just a bunch of time wasted because I'm not doing the things the right way when I first started inside of this business. Now, here's what I wish I would have did just a little bit different. If I could go back and holler at my younger self, or if I'm hollering at the young ones now, I'll say, just slow down. You got about 8 hours to do the work. You don't rush them. You use them. You learn how to actually troubleshoot the circuits that you're working on. You understand the path of what the voltage or the circuitry, whatever is happening on a wire from point A to point B, you need to thoroughly understand that, because once you can actually start designing a system in your head, and I don't mean by putting a whole entire system together, when you're troubleshooting and you go from device to device, you should be mapping wiring in your head of how this is actually potentially wired. And when you can start visualizing that in real time, it makes it so much easier for you to start troubleshooting. So if you're new to the field, coming up in the field, first couple years in the field, listen to me clearly. You're not behind because you're slow. You're behind if you refuse to learn. So slow down, do it right, build habits that protect you, build systems that compensate you for your weakness, and just stop trying to look fast. Be yourself and always ask questions when you don't understand. So stay solid, and that's how you win in this industry. Tomorrow, on your next job, I want you to slow down on purpose. Pick one thing, one circuit, one panel, one device, and don't move until you understand why it works. That discipline will change your career forever. This episode of the Fire Alarm Insider is brought to you by Securit Security. Securit Securities presents you the perfect fire alarm install, from inception all the way down to installation to the one-time pass inspection with the fire department. If you're looking for the perfect install, click the link in the show notes to talk more. If this episode had hit home, I want you to share this with a tech who need to hear it before it costs them 1,000 years. I'm the fire alarm expert, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.